Yo, what is up, guys? My name is Joel, and today I'm gonna show you guys how can we create a full stack application using .NET Core 7. So the application that we're gonna build is gonna be a CRM manager. So we're gonna create customers, update customers, delete, and get our customers information. So the way that I'm gonna build, it's my own way. So this isn't a one fit for all. So I'm gonna show you guys how I'm used to create applications. So what works today might not work tomorrow. So yeah, guys, I hope you guys learned something from me. By the way, this is my first YouTube video, so if I mispronounce some words because English is not my first language, please forgive me. So let's get into it. So alright, so let's create a new project. So I'm gonna create a blank solution. So the default is going to be this one. So the name of the solution is going to be CRM Manager. Let's create. So here we have our solution. So for this application, we're going to use Clean Architeture. So if you guys don't know what Clean Architeture is, I'm going to drop the link in the description of the video so you guys can learn and read more about it. So I'm going to create 4 projects. So it's going to be the domain project, infrastructure, API, and application layer. So let's start by doing it. So let's add a new project. Let me create the class library. So the name is going to be CRM manager application. It's going to be .NET Core 7. Okay. Now we're gonna add our infrastructure layer. So CRM manager infrastructure. Perfect. Let's add our domain project. Domain. Okay. And now let's add our web API project. So it's going to be ASP.NET Core Web API, and the name is going to be CRM Manager API. Perfect. So I think so right now we have our 4 projects created. So let's just test it out and see if everything is working fine. Let me set this as my startup application, startup project, and let me just run the project and see if everything is working fine. Okay, it is perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to define our domain project. So I'm going to use domain-driven design for my application. So let's start by doing it. So let's create a new folder called aggregate. So if you guys don't know what domain-driven design is, I can also link in the description the explanation of domain-driven design. I'm not going to get into much detail what domain-driven design is. But I'm going to show you my thinking process while I'm creating my entity so you guys can learn more about it. So let's start by creating our aggregates. So I'm going to create a folder called aggregates, and I'm going to create a new folder called common. So this is where I'm going to set my models, interfaces that are common along my domain entities. So I'm going to create a new folder inside aggregates called customer aggregate. And inside it, I'm gonna create my customer entity. So it's gonna be named customer, and it's gonna be a public class. And now here inside my customer, I'm gonna specify my property. So it's gonna be my customer gonna have a property called text number. It's gonna be private set. Gonna have another property called street, and I forgot my other property called name. Okay, private and private set. Perfect. So you guys might wonder why haven't I set my ID for my customer. So if you guys come from the background of using a lot of entity framework like me, I'm used to, like, for example, if I was gonna build like I used to, I'll probably do this prop int id key. I'll probably do like this and set my ID directly like this. So it's not wrong, But in the domain-driven design, you want to abstract that knowledge of ID. So you want to have a value object that represents your ID. So your entity is going to be abstract to the database configuration or the database itself. So I'm going to create my customer ID as I'm going to create a strongly value type ID. So how am I going to do it? So first, I need to create inside my common a new folder called models. So I'm going to create an abstract class called entity. So this will tell that it will represent that the entity that inherits from this class is an entity. So I'm going to tell entity, okay. It's going to be a public abstract class entity where my key will be generic. So it will be defined by the class and inherits from this class. So, and I'm going to tell here that my ID is going to be TID, ID, CTOR, and I'm going to receive here my ID as a parameter. ID, and I'm going to tell here it's ID. So I'm going to set it protected set and protected entity. I'm going to create an empty constructor. Because since I'm going to use entity framework, he needs this to instantiate and use it correctly. Okay, so I have my entity created. So now my base entity. Now what I'm going to do is I need to create my my customer ID. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a value object. So I'm going to create a value object. I'm going to create a folder called value object. So all value objects that are used by the customer, it's going to be inside here. So I'm going to create a new entity, a new class called customer ID. Sorry if you guys are hearing noises, it's still my desk. So yeah, okay, so now here I'm actually going to define my actual ID type. So I'm going to create a new property, so it's going to be called value. So you guys could put a long string, whatever you guys want for the key. So I'm going to use int. So, and I'm going to receive this here in my constructor. So it's going to be like this, customer ID. I'm going to create an empty constructor, and it's going to be like this for my entity framework. And I also want to create a way to generate this customer ID. So I'm going to create a factory. So I'm going to create a static method called create, and I'm going to receive a value. So value, and I'm going to return. I'm going to return the new customer ID. So this way, the only way to create a new customer ID is through my customer factory. And this is the method that I'm going to use to create an ID and save in the database the customer ID. Because later on, I'll need to configure my entity framework to actually use this to create my customer ID. And when I'm going to retrieve my customer, he will already fill this, or in this case, create this object and fill it with the actual ID in the database. Okay, so let's continue. So let's go to our customer, and now I can actually tell here that my customer will inherit from entity, and he's going to use customer ID as the key for the customer. So let's start by creating our constructor. It's going to be a private. I'm going to receive string name, string text number, and receive string streets. Here I'm going to set it. So the same way we create a factory method for our customer ID, I'm going to do the same for our customer. So I'm going to do public static customer create, and we're going to receive the same parameters that we receive here, and we're going to return our new customer. Perfect. And now I also need to create a private method, do entity framework. So entity framework can create this entity when it's going to retrieve on the database. Okay, I think for now it's no, actually there is something that we are missing. So I'm also gonna use generic repository. So but it's a little bit different on you guys might be thinking. So I'm gonna create a new folder here called interfaces. So interfaces, and I'm gonna create a base repository. So the name's gonna be base repository. So guys, if I mispronounce any word, I'm sorry. Or if I spoke too fast, sorry guys. I'll try to slow down and be more and explain better. So okay, let's continue. So I have my iBase repository. So I'm gonna tell the T is where it's gonna be my entity type, and now I'm gonna add my T ID, which is gonna be my ID. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a method. So task list T get all async task add async. I'm gonna receive T item. It's gonna be, I don't like T item. It's gonna be T entity. I'm gonna have another to update. I'm gonna have to delete, and another one to get by ID. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. So this is all our iBase repository needs. And now I'm going to the aggregates, customer aggregate. I'm gonna create a new folder called repository. So I'm trying to keep everything that has a relationship with customer here inside our customer aggregate folder. And now I'm gonna create the iBase repository. iCustomer repository. Sorry guys, iCustomer repository. Perfect. It's gonna be a public interface. Oops, I created with the wrong name. Okay, and now I'm gonna inherit from iBase repository that it's gonna use our customer entity and our customer ID. And I think that's all we need for now. So we have our domain entity created. So we have our customer. Later on we're gonna create other entities while we are working on this project, but for now we're just gonna create our customer. We're gonna leave it like this, so you just have our customer entity. And yeah, let me just check if everything is missing. I think everything is correct. Yeah, it's perfect. It's okay. It's cool. Okay, let's continue. So now we're gonna go. Now we're going to configure our infrastructure layer. So let's go there. Let's create a new folder called persistence. So persistence. So in this folder, RDB context and everything that has a relationship with our database is going to be implemented here. So let me create our application DB context. So the name is going to be CRM manager dot context, and inside here what we're going to do is I'm going to tell DB context. So I'll have an error here because it doesn't have entity framework core. Okay, but I will also need something, so I'll just get ahead and install it already. So entity framework entity framework, and I'm going to install entity framework SQL server. Okay, perfect. Perfect. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, in the constructor, I'm gonna receive our connection string. So I'm gonna use DB context options. So it's gonna use our CRM manager context and options, and we're gonna tell here that it's gonna be the base. Perfect. And now we also need to tell our DB our tables in this case. So we're gonna use our customer. So it's gonna be DB set customer and customers get set. It's gonna add a reference to our domain project. Now we also need to create a configuration, because if you guys remember, our ID is inside our customer ID. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new folder called configurations, and inside this folder we're gonna create customer configuration. Okay, so the public class, and inside this customer configuration, we're gonna configure our customer entity. So since our customer is database abstract, so we will need to tell our entity framework how to use this entity. So in the reality, the only thing we need to tell entity framework is that we are using a value object in the customer, which is customer ID. So because by default, if I just run the project like this, it will tell error because it won't be able to know what customer ID is. So I'll need to tell entity framework how to configure that. So let's do it. So let me entity configuration type customer. Let me implement the interface. Perfect. And now what we're gonna do is we just need to tell that we're gonna use a value object and we're gonna use a conversion. So first off, let's just tell builder.hasKey, and the key is gonna be c.id. Okay, now we also need to tell that we have a property. Property c.id has conversion. So we're gonna do a conversion. So we're gonna have c.value, and now we're gonna use customer ID dot create value, and this is it. We also need to tell, since we won't be generating our ID here, we want our database to generate the ID. You gotta tell it again that value generated on add. And now this is perfect. So now it's pretty much everything we need here. Yeah, it's everything we need here for now. So now let's go to our context, and we will need to override on model creating. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tell when this is configure our database, we want to tell to use the customer configuration. So what we need to do is we're gonna come here and type builder, model builder dot apply configuration from assembly, type of it's gonna be our CRM manager context dot assembly, and yeah, this is all we need to configure our customer. Now let's configure our infrastructure dependency injection. So every service that infrastructure uses or implements, we need to inject here. So we're gonna create a new class called dependency injection. And here it's gonna be a public static class. And what we're gonna do is gonna create a new public static iService collection, add infrastructure, and we're gonna receive iCollection service, because the layer that's gonna send this, or the layer that's gonna configure this infrastructure, will need to send this, which is gonna be the API. Here we're gonna return services. Yeah, so it doesn't give an error. And now here we're gonna configure our dependencies that the infrastructure has. So first off, we're gonna add our database. So it's gonna be service.add db context. I think I already have here. Let me see, guys. Let me just give me a sec. You guys can use the. Wait, let me see if I can find it here. Okay, whatever. Let's just Google it, guys. I don't have it here, so since this is on one take go, let me, instead of, I think it has any documentation yet. Perfect, it's here. Let's do it like this, and let's change to what's called CRM manager context. And here in the connection string, I'm gonna change to my own database connection string. So if you guys have SQL Server, you guys should also do this, and I'm gonna put it right here, so I don't have to write it alone again. So yeah, server localhost, perfect. Okay, and now I actually forgot, guys. Sorry, I'm gonna create a new folder here called repositories, because I haven't implemented the repository yet. So it's gonna be here where I'm gonna implement our repository. So the name is gonna be customer repository. Perfect. Sorry for my bad English, guys. Doing my best. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. But yeah, okay, so let's implement our interfaces. Perfect. Now let's, in the constructor, let's use our DB context. It's going to be CRM, probably only CRM manager context. It's going to be called context. And we're going to receive here our context here, because we injected in our dependency injection class. And here we're just going to do the typical stuff. So it's going to be await context.add async entity, and you're going to await context. I'll save changes. Oops. Save changes async. Okay. So let's do our get all. So return await context dot customers. Has no tracking because we don't want to keep track of all that we are gonna return, so it boosts the performance of our application. And to list async. Okay, so let's return by ID. Return await context dot where customer, sorry, oops, customer dot where c.id equals id first or default async. And we're gonna do here the context dot date entity, and we're gonna await context dot save changes async. Okay, so our repository for our customer repository is implemented for now. So I think this is all we need. And now we need to go here and add this repository inject here. So add scoped customer repository. It's going to be implemented by customer repository. And yeah, I think this is all we need for our infrastructure layer. And now infrastructure is implemented. Let's go to our application layer. So let's start off by, before I go to my infrastructure layer. Now, okay, let's go to our application layer. It's okay. So here in the application layer, this is where we're going to implement our business logic. So this is where we're gonna use, I'm gonna use the, I haven't told, but I'm gonna use the CQRS pattern here. So this is where I'm gonna implement it. So here we're gonna have our commands and queries. So let's start by implementing it. So let's create a new folder called features. In here, I'm gonna create a new folder called customers. So inside customers, we're gonna have all our features that are related to customers. So let's create a new folder called command, and another folder called queries. And inside commands, we're going to create a new command called create command, create customer command. Okay. So this is going to be the command that's gonna it's gonna be the command that our API will call to create our customer. So instead of unique, it's going to be a record where I'm just going to put the properties that we need to create a customer. So to create a customer, we need our we just need our string called name. We need another called text. And another one called street. And to implement the CQRS, I use a library called Mediator. I think it's the name. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. Let me see. Mediator. Okay, mediator. Yeah, it's mediator. Sorry, guys. I don't know. I'm nervous. My first video, so. Okay, let's go. Mediator. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna tell that this is I request. So this is gonna be a request, and then this request will have a handler. So now I request. So this is a create customer command, and if you guys know about domain-driven design, the create command, it's only responsible to create, so it cannot return anything, or if it returns, it can only be, for example, the ID. So in my case, I'm not gonna return anything, so I'm just gonna put I request and an empty, and I'll just put I request and close here. So it's create customer command. Now I need to add my create customer command handler. So I need a class that will handle this request. So it's going to be a create customer command handler. It's going to be a public class, and it's going to be an I request handler. And this handler will handle the create command. Now I'll need to implement the method, and now here what I'm gonna inject here, I'm gonna inject the customer repository. So it's gonna be a privately I customer repository. Let me add the reference to my project, and here I'm gonna use my customer repository in my handle. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create, so it's gonna be var customer equals customer dot create, it's gonna be the factory, and now I'm gonna pass our request parameters, request dot name, request dot text number, text, I should put text number, just everything be correct, just so everything be correct. Text number, and it's gonna be request dot streets. So we have our customer, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call await add async, and I'm gonna pass our customer. And this is all we need for our handler to create a customer. Now our create customer is working. Now let's create, for example, our query just to get all of our customers. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new folder. No, actually I'm not gonna do a new folder. Since it's the only one that's gonna be created here, I'm gonna put class. I'm gonna put the name. It's gonna be list all customers query. So it's going to be our query. So this query won't receive anything, so it's going to be an empty query, but it will have I request. It's going to be type of I request. Now I'm gonna create my list all query handler. It's going to be a public class, and it's going to be an I request handler, and I'm going to pass my list all query. Oh, query, yeah, query like this. List all customers query. My bad. The name. No, I should name here. Okay, perfect. Now it's working. Okay, so let's implement our interface. And now here I'm gonna receive again the same repository. So we private only I customer repository, and I'm gonna receive here. Oops, I forgot. Customer repository. Okay, perfect. Now, so now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna return await customer. Oh wait, I actually forgot here that what am I gonna return? I'm gonna return a list of customer. You guys might be wondering why am I returning my domain object to the outer layers. For now, I'm just gonna keep it here like this. just so you guys can see and learn. But the ideal it will be like I have something, a DTO or a model that represents customer instead of returning our customer domain entity directly. But since we just are implementing and I'm showing how to implement the way that I create my project, so I'm just gonna keep it like this for now, and later we're gonna refactor and return a model or a DTO. So let's continue here. So let me put here a list of customer and close here, and return a list of customer. And here I'm gonna wait customer dot get all async and return. Okay. So yeah, I think this is all we need for now. So we're gonna create. We have a command to create customer, and we have a query to get all customers. I also need to add here a dependency injection. So dependency injection public static class, and now here I'm going to create a new public static iService collection add application. Oops, this dot iService collection. Return services. Oops. Services, and now what I need to do is I need to add my mediator sorry mediator I need to add my mediator injection. So let me see, I think I have here, so you guys can see it here. So let me, oops, not this one. This is something else that I'm gonna use later on, but this is all I need to configure my mediator configuration. So yeah, okay, so I think for now this is all we need, and we will finally go to our API layer. So let's come here, let me delete this weather forecast and create a new controller, in this case API controller, and the name is going to be a customer controller. So let's start off by injecting here. So let's first off private read-only inject our mediator. So iMediator, we need mediator, and here I'm gonna add iMediator. Let me just use local version. Okay, you know, here let me just create our request. So HTTP get public async test I action result get all, and here we're gonna create var query. It's gonna be equal a new list all customers query. Let me add it here. That's gonna add the application project reference. And now here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna await mediator dot send query and var result gonna be equal to this, and here I'm gonna return okay result. Send, my bad, send results. Okay, and now I'm just gonna create the HTTP post. So it's gonna be HTTP post. It's gonna be a create, and here we're gonna receive. Just to be simple, I'm gonna just add here the parameters that I need. So it's gonna be a name, string text number, and string street. Here's going to be a command. We'll create a new create customer command here, and here we're gonna receive the name, text number, and street. Here we're gonna send our command, await, and return an empty response. And now what we're gonna do is we just need to, in the program, we need to add our service, our dependency injections in the other project. I'm gonna type build.service.add application, and we're gonna do it again, builder.service.add infrastructure, and infra my add infrastructure. Why didn't okay, whatever. I don't know why it's not showing it. CRM manager dot. Wait, I think I didn't. Let me add it manually here. Project reference infrastructure. Wait, let me see if now he will find. Okay, he found it. Okay, perfect. Now let's configure our database. So I'm gonna use, since we are using a code first, I'm gonna add the migration. Oh wait, before I add the migration, I also need to install here in my API, I need to add entity framework tools, that this is needed to apply our migrations and run this command. And now it should be working fine. Migration init. Let's see how it goes. And it's nice, it's working fine. So as you guys can see, I'm using value objects for our ID, and since we did a correct configuration, it created, or it's showing how it's going to create our database table called customers. So now let's just update database, update the database. Oops. Oh, I already have this here. I didn't expect this, guys. Okay, so I think I'll have to cut the video. So give me a second, and we'll be back into the video. Okay, guys. So let's continue. So let me update database. So I changed the database name because I already had one with this name. So yeah, so I changed the names to the customer manager. And now, if I'm going to see here in my local host, I should see my database, so customer manager, which has my table here, customers. Now let's start off by creating some customers in our database. So let's run our API project. So if everything we did it was fine, or we correctly implemented, so it should be working. Let me put the name Joel 1 2 3 4 5 and street. Let's say whatever. Okay, it didn't return anything. Let's see if we can see our entity. Yeah, it's working fine, guys. As you guys can see, it returned our newly created entity. So with this, we have our application using Clean Architecture. It's using repository pattern. We are using domain-driven design, CQRS. So yeah, I think this is one of the ways you guys can build and create new applications. I really enjoyed it, building applications like this. Let me just try creating a new entity just to see if everything's correct. Let me put here John. And Canada. Okay. Oops, wait, actually I think I created two Johns. Yep. It's okay, it's working fine. So as you guys can see, we have our ID, which is a value object inside here, value. So, and instead of returning like this, in the next video, if you guys enjoyed this one, I will create some DTOs and some models to return our customer entities in a more in a more, how can I say it, instead of using this value object like this, you're just going to have ID and the actual ID of our entity. So yeah guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys have any questions, put it on the comments and I'll try to answer them as quick as possible.